Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to All About Sports. The Chicago Blackhawks took full advantage of their opportunities in Edmonton as they advanced into the Stanley Cup playoffs and sending the Oilers packing. But now the road gets more challenging as they will take on the top-seeded Vegas Golden Knights in the Western Conference quarterfinals. The Blackhawks and Golden Knights have never met in postseason play. Chicago posted a 1-1-1 record against Vegas during the regular season. I'm your host, Luca Vitale, and joining me today is Andrew Cochrane. How you doing, Andrew?
I'm great. Thanks for having me here, Luca.
Of course. All right, so questions for you. What are your predictions for the Hawks in Golden Knights series?
I think that the Knights are going to be a tough challenge for the Hawks. They have fantastic depth everywhere that you look. The wings, the centers, the defense, the goaltending. I think that if I have to put a number on it, I think it's going to be the Knights in 7 games.
Yeah, you're not wrong here at all. I mean, as much as we want to be homers here, we got to be realistic. And, I mean, I can say this part too. I didn't say it in the intro, but history is not on the Hawks side as there are 1-6-2 in all-time meetings. So flipping the script would definitely be some sort of accomplishment. But being realistic, it's not going to happen. So I want to tell you a story first. And this is an interesting story because none of us thought the pandemic would happen. But I'm going to tell you a story. So first things first, when Hawks GM Stan Bowman traded Robin Lehner, who is in line for a massive contract after the season, for goalie Malcolm Subban, a prospect in a second-round draft pick, it seemed there was no way the Hawks could run into Robin Lehner again this season or even the Knights because they already finished or they completed their 3-season series, and the Hawks' playoff hopes were faded, and the Knights seemed like they secured a spot. So there's no way they're going to run into each other again. But as we all know, in March, a global pandemic hits us, putting professional sports on a hiatus, and eventually the NHL resumes. The Hawks happen to make that new format, and they're slated to play Edmonton. They were huge underdogs. They won. And they win that, and then Colorado was playing Vegas. Vegas win. No way. The Hawks now play Vegas Golden Knights, and who must they verse? Their former goalie, Robin Lehner, and the crew. So I guess history does have some things to say, in trading certain players away is somewhat karma. So, Andrew, take us away more about the Vegas Golden Knights. What do you predict they're going to do?
Well, the Knights have a very deep offensive core. When you look at players like William Karlsson, Paul Stastny, Riley Smith, Jonathan Marchessault, Mark Stone, Max Pacioretty, they have tons of talent up front. You're going to see a lot of high-scoring games. You're going to see a Hawks defense that bent at times when playing the Oilers. The Knights and the Oilers are two very different teams in the way that they're built. The Knights are incredibly deep, where the Oilers have 2 players that are very good and not much else. So I think that the Hawks are going to struggle, but it's really, when you look at the defense of the Knights, the Hawks can put up a fight against them too.
Yeah, but so let me get you to the defense because I wanted to talk about that. Vegas, their defense it's built with plenty of depth and talent. This group is headlined by the players that can make plays happen on the offensive side of the ice as well. And those players are Nate Schmidt and Shea Theodore. Those are 2 of the Golden Knights' most productive players offensively in their ability to stretch the ice and keeping that pressure on opposing forwards. And that could cause the most talented teams in the league fits as they're trying to set up their offense. And the Hawks, during the regular season, those 3 games, the Hawks struggled to get their offense set it up because of those 2 players. Now, don't get me wrong. The Hawks, they are no scrub team. They got Jonathan Toews, Alex DeBrincat, Dominic Kubalik. You got Patrick Kane. These are elite players. But the problem is, if they cannot set up their offense because of the pressure that the Knights apply, it's going to be tough for them, and they're not going to be able to produce like they did against Edmonton.
I absolutely agree. The Oilers' defensive core is not built with a lot of offensive talent. When you look at the Golden Knights with Shea Theodore and Nate Schmidt, 2 right-handed defensemen who have incredible shots, can carry the puck, which you don't see as much in the NHL these days. You have a lot of defensemen that can do stretch passes, but Nate Schmidt, Shea Theodore, 2 smooth skating defensemen that I personally, as a Hawks fan, am scared of.
Yes. Yeah, and also another thing as we look in history, because the Golden Knights have a very brief history, as we both know. This team is a group that can score goals in bunches, and they have the ability to persevere as well through scoring droughts from their top tier players. Unlike the top heavy Edmonton Oilers squad that the Hawks just knocked off, we saw that. I mean, we looked at last season what the Vegas Knights did to the Hawks. I remember this game. I think it was Colin Delia playing this game. The Hawks were up 3-0, and 3 minutes later, the Knights tied the game. It was a disaster. So what the Hawks need to do, their defense cannot be Swiss cheese, and they need to tighten up their defense, and they need to protect Crawford. Unlike some moments we saw in the Edmonton Oilers series, where I saw Leon Draisaitl all by himself in front of Crawford. You cannot let scoring threats like that happen. So they have to protect Crawford in every capacity there is, blocking scoring lanes and just protecting him in general.
I absolutely agree. The Hawks need to clog up the neutral zone because if they're able to prevent the pressing defense of the Golden Knights, then I think that's how they live through this series. If they're able to prevent zone entries, which Calvin DeHaan was fantastic at, I could see that giving the Hawks a chance. But once the Golden Knights get into the offensive zone, you have too many threats to deal with. William Karlsson, who scored 30 goals a couple years back and still has that same shot, it's not like it went away. They're going to need to block shots. They're going to need to get sticks in the lane, and Crawford's going to need to be much better than he was in the series with the Oilers. Yeah, Crawford had a really good game 4, but the rest of the series, he was shaky. He was giving up rebounds. He was letting deflections in, and it's hard to play against. But Crawford was one of the best goalies in the NHL, and he needs to show that if the Hawks want to have a chance.
Yes, he definitely does have to show that. And we, like you said, in Game 4, Crawford was elite. Yeah, that was the Crawford that we all know. He has to be like that. I'm not saying he has to make 40 saves, but he has to make those necessary saves in getting rid of those second chance, because they are going to get crushed if that's available. Now, a weakness that Vegas does have, and the Hawks capitalized this in the Edmonton series, the Oilers have one of the best penalty killing units in the league this past season. Now, guess who has one of the worst? The Golden Knights. They have one of the worst penalty killing in the league, 81% of the power plays they faced. Now, this could be an area where the Hawks could potentially do some damage, as they showed some prowess on the power play in games 1 and 4 of the series with Jonathan Toews and Dominic Kubalik working together in that very strong power play. And the man advantage could definitely be a key advantage for the Hawks to looking for a huge upset here.
It really is. And the Hawks, when you look at the talent that they have with Kirby Dach, really emerged as a star in the series against the Oilers. If Kirby Dach gets to the front of the net, digs out pucks from behind the net, I really think that the Hawks are going to bury some goals on the power play. And Mark Stone is a fantastic defensive forward on the Golden Knights, but that's about the only defensive forward that they have. When you look at the rest of that team, Alex Tuch, Nicholas Roy, Nick Cousins, I mean, Ryan Reeves is on the fourth line, and he's barely an NHL player at this point. Yeah. He's not a defensive guru by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh, yeah. So another thing the Hawks must do, just like they did in the Edmonton series, and I saw this in Game 3, get physical. They were extremely physical in that game, and they were able to outcompete Edmonton in that category. And getting physical can slow down those speedsters, and by doing that, you're eliminating damage that could be caused by Crawford and letting cheap goals in. He's going to have to be sharp, but the forwards are going to have to get physical again. I like what I saw in that Game 3 against Edmonton, so they must do that again.
Yeah, the Hawks have more size than they have in the past. Players like Ryan Carpenter, even Kirby Dach is not afraid to get physical. Drake Caggiula, another man who's able to lay the body, and he's able to get pucks in the dirty areas. When you're talking about the corners behind the net, that's where the Hawks beat the Oilers, because they had more compete.
Yeah, another thing they need to capitalize on this series that I saw from the Edmonton Oilers series is Jonathan Toews cannot be the only one that is winning faceoffs. It's that simple. You need to be winning faceoffs or you're going to get crushed. I'm a little shocked on how the Hawks did not have to pay that much in those categories, but they somehow did a good job. And in this series, someone needs to be present, and that would be Patrick Kane. He needs to be present in this series because you did not see his name on that score sheet really last series. I don't think you saw his name at all, in fact. So
he definitely had some assists, but
he did. Yes.
Kane scored once in game 2, I believe, but
okay. Yeah, the useless game where they got crushed.
Right,
okay.
They got smacked around by a fast Oilers team. But Patrick Kane does need to show up. He needs to score goals. He needs to do what he does where he slows down the play in the neutral zone. He's able to find lanes for passes to break into the zone, and he needs to be able to possess the puck. He needs to eat up that defense.
Yeah, and another player that needs to be present in this next series is the Cat. He needs to be present. He was not the last series. In fact, he took a really dumb penalty one of those games, and those penalties will be costly. I know Vegas does not have one of the best power plays in the league, but guess what? The postseason is not the regular season, so you never know what's going to happen. And another thing that all of us, I mean, personally, it surprised me how present Jonathan Toews was in that first series. No one thought that he was going to revitalize himself like he did in 2013. I never thought I would see the 2013 Jonathan Toews. Okay, that guy was outstanding. He's getting pucks to the net. He's screening Mikko Koskinen when he had to. And Kirby Dach, his presence in front of the net was seen, and it did a lot of damage to Mikko Koskinen as his vision was blocked.
Absolutely. Jonathan Toews. That series against the Oilers was vintage Jonathan Toews, where he's winning faceoffs. He's playing defensively, but he's also able to score. You can see him in every aspect of the ice. And I really hope that he shows up in the same way against the Vegas Golden Knights.
All right, and then one last topic that I want to get to is players that surprised me in this last series, and that would be Matthew Highmore. Yes, he is on the fourth line. Yes, he did make a couple of mistakes, but he was able to capitalize on those mistakes. Now, this series, I do not think he's going to be able to get away with those types of mistakes because Vegas is not going to put up with that. But like you said in the very beginning, these two teams are built in two different ways. So the Hawks cannot expect to win like they did against Edmonton. They're going to have to find different ways to win.
It's exactly what you said. Matthew Highmore did surprise me a lot. But my personal surprise was Calvin DeHaan.
Yes.
With preventing zone entries, perfect defending against Connor McDavid, even though he still had 7 points in the series. DeHaan impressed me coming back after shoulder surgery. So I really hope to see more of the same from him against Max Pacioretty and Mark Stone.
All right, guess what? The Hawks series will be underway tonight at 9:30 in Canada and Edmonton. Be sure to watch that. And that will conclude our episode here. Andrew, thanks for joining me. And thanks for watching another episode of All About Sports. Take care. We'll see you later.